Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today I would like to talk about the new Imperial Fists Codex Supplement. This supplement and the Salamanders supplement are currently available for pre-order from Games Workshop, so you can pick up a copy for yourself if you want the rules to play with. This video is going to be dedicated to the Imperial Fists supplement though, and I found some strong combos that I think will make Imperial Fists a very strong army. I won't be able to go over everything from this book, but I'm definitely going to cover the things that I think are cool or that I think are really strong. As for my review on the Salamanders book, that will be released later this week. Also, thanks to Games Workshop for sending me these review copies so that I can give you guys and gals my thoughts on them. So with that said, let's not waste any more time because I know a lot of you have been waiting for this supplement, and let's just jump right into it. The first thing I noticed about this book is something that most of you probably expected, and it's that Crimson Fists are part of the supplement as well, and they get a few stratagems, Warlord Traits, and Relics. Originally, I thought because Crimson Fists had their own trait in the Space Marine Codex that they would have their own supplement as well, but I guess I was wrong on that one. To be fair though, they do already have a supplement, but it's in the White Dwarf, and it's much smaller than this one. Black Templars though, who are also an Imperial Fist successor chapter, are not in this book, so there is still a chance that Templars get their own supplement in the future. We will just have to wait and see on that one. As for the new rules in this book, there are 3 new data sheets for units which are all characters, a new chapter doctrine for Imperial Fists and their successors, and for the Imperial Fist specific stuff, they get 6 new Warlord Traits, 4 new Relics, 14 new stratagems, a bunch of special issue war gear, and 6 new spells from their new Psychic Discipline. And Crimson Fists get 3 new Warlord Traits, 2 new Relics, and 2 new stratagems. So let's start with the new data sheets. We have Captain Lysander, Tor Garadon, and Pedro Cantor, which by the way, if I'm saying any of those names wrong, sorry, and please correct me down in the comments. Captain Lysander costs 130 points, and his stats are a 5-inch movement, 2+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, strength and toughness 4, 6 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 9, and a 2+ save. His war gear is the Fist of Dorn, which looks an awful lot like a hammer to me, but it's a melee weapon that gives him +6 strength to make him strength 10, -3 AP, and 3 flat damage. For his abilities, he has the Angels of Death, a 3+ invulnerable save, can reroll 1s for Imperial Fists, he can deep strike, and he has a 6-inch aura that makes it so that Imperial Fist units within that aura only ever lose 1 model due to a failed morale test. This was a minor buff since before this update he only gave friendly Imperial Fists +1 to leadership. For Tor Garadon, he costs 140 points, and for his stats he has a 5-inch movement, weapon skill and ballistic skill of 2+, strength 4 and toughness 5, 7 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 9, and a 3+ save. For his war gear, he has a rapid fire grav gun, which is strength 5, -3 AP, 1 damage, but does D3 damage to units that have a 3+ save or better. His melee weapon is called the Hand of Defiance. It gives ×3 to his strength to make him strength 12, -3 AP, flat 3 damage, and you must -1 from the hit roll when he uses this weapon. For his abilities, he has Angels of Death, a 4+ invulnerable save, he has a generic Captain aura which allows Imperial Fists within 6 inches to reroll 1s to hit. He can pick 1 Imperial Fist unit within 3 inches of him and gives that unit a ballistic skill of 2+ until the end of the shooting phase, and he himself gets +1 to damage against vehicles and buildings when he attacks a vehicle or a building. This means his fist is 4 damage when fighting a vehicle, and his strength would be 12, so he wounds pretty much every vehicle in the game on 3+, or even 2+ for vehicles that are toughness 6 or lower. I definitely think this guy is far better than the other guy for Imperial Fists, mainly because he's got a little bit more utility, like being able to pick a unit and give it a 2+ ballistic skill, but also because of the Warlord trait you can give him that gives him +1 to wound when attacking a vehicle. So he'll have +1 to wound against vehicles and +1 damage against vehicles. So now he will literally wound every vehicle in the game on 2+, including Imperial Knights. With that said, when you do the math hammer, he's not going to one-shot an Imperial Knight. On average, he'll do 16 to 20 damage to an Imperial Knight. So you're going to have to do a few wounds to it first and then send him to finish it off. So personally, I do think this guy is better than the original character that I talked about, at least when it comes to damage output. Captain Lysander though is definitely the more durable of these 2 characters because of his 3+ invulnerable save, plus his Warlord trait makes it so that he can only be wounded on wound rolls of 4+. So he basically has transhuman physiology all the time. For Pedro Cantor, unfortunately he wasn't made into a Primaris like I was hoping, but he costs 150 points, has a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill of 2+, strength and toughness 4, 6 wounds, leadership 9, and a 2+ save. For his war gear, he has a gun called Dorn's Arrow, which is assault 4, strength 4, -1 AP, and 2 damage. And for his melee weapon, he has a regular power fist. For his abilities, he has Angels of Death, He gives full rerolls of hits for Crimson Fist. He gives Crimson Fist units within 6 inches of him +1 attack to their attack characteristics, and he has a 4+ invulnerable save. So he did receive a buff from his previous iteration, since before this update he only gave +1 attack to friendly Crimson Fist models within 6 inches, but now it's full units and not just models. This means you can conga line some units, only have one model within the range, and all the models will still get that buff, so that's pretty good. Also, his gun is 2 damage now instead of 1, so that's another buff as well. If you play Crimson Fists, I think this guy is 100% worth running. I think he was also worth running before these changes, but now with these buffs he's definitely worth running, especially if you want a run and gun style list that shoots first and then punches people afterwards. And now for the new rules for Imperial Fists. The chapter doctrine is called Legacy of Dorn, and when your army is in the Devastator doctrine, your heavy weapons gain +1 damage when attacking a vehicle or building. This is great for how I personally think Imperial Fists should be played, which is actually spamming bolt weapons and mainly heavy bolters. I feel like this is the best option because if you're spamming heavy bolters, the majority of your army comes fully online starting from turn 1 since you start the game in the Devastator doctrine, and that's the doctrine where your chapter doctrine actually comes into play. Your heavy bolters become -2 AP because you're in the Devastator doctrine, and they do 2 flat damage a shot to vehicles. On top of that, they are bolt weapons. So because of the Imperial Fist chapter tactic, those heavy bolters get extra hits on unmodified hit rolls of 6 while also ignoring cover. You could make an argument for spamming stuff like blast cannons or other heavy weapons, but based on some of the combos you can do with bolt weapons in this book, I honestly think that spamming bolt weapons is the way to go so that you essentially drown your opponent in dice. Also, heavy bolters seem to be the best of both worlds for the most part when it comes to anti-infantry and anti-tank, because they're both in one cheap package. And because they are so cheap, you can actually spam a lot of them. So it definitely plays into the whole idea of just drowning your opponent in dice. This trait also makes me consider using the heavy version of Primaris bolters, since they will now have -3 AP from being in the Devastator doctrine, and they'll do a flat 3 damage if you're shooting at a vehicle or building. And there's actually some combos in this book and with the regular Space Marine book that makes getting the damage through easier because of how many things can give +1 to wound. We'll get into that though when I talk about the stratagems. So some of the units that I think can work well in an Imperial Fist army, at least off the top of my head, are stuff like Mortis Dreads with 2 heavy bolters, Contemptors with heavy bolters, Invictor Tactical Warsuits, Deredeo Dreads, Attack Bikes, Land Speeders, Tarantula Sentry Guns, Devastator Squads, pretty much anything that holds any kind of bolt weapon. And my favorite unit, due to some combos I discovered when combining stratagems from this supplement and the Space Marine Codex and a Vigilist formation, would be the Centurion Devastators. So let's talk about that combo since it will include a bunch of stratagems from this supplement, which was going to be my next segment in the video anyways. So there is actually an offensive combo and a defensive combo. First I'll go over what units you need to do both of these combos, and then I'll go over the offensive combo and the defensive combo. So for both the damage and durability combo, you need a squad of Centurion Devastators, preferably with 5 models to deny full gangbuster points in ITC, or 6 models if you're feeling a little frisky. Then you need a captain of any kind, a lieutenant of any kind, and a chaplain of any kind. The captain is for rerolls. I'd recommend upgrading him to be a chapter master so that he gives full rerolls and giving him the Vox Esperatum, so his reroll aura is 9 inches instead of 6. This way he can help out other units with the rerolls as well. The lieutenant just gives rerolls of 1 to wound, and the chaplain is just to give the centurions +1 to wound with that litany. So you start off the damage combo for the centurions by having the captain within 9 inches of the centurions to give them full rerolls of hits. Then you cast a +1 to wound litany on them with the chaplain. And then of course you have the lieutenant nearby to give them rerolls of 1s to wound. You then spend 2 command points to use a stratagem called Bolter Drill on the centurions. This stratagem is found in the new supplement. This makes it so that their bolt weapons, so their heavy bolters and hurricane bolters, get extra hits on unmodified hit rolls of 6. This means for every 6 you roll, that roll counts as 3 hits because it combines with the chapter tactic, which does the same thing. You then spend 2 more command points to use a stratagem called Tank Hunters, which is another stratagem from this supplement, and it allows you to pick 1 enemy vehicle and 1 unit from your army, which you pick the centurions, and it gives the centurions another +1 to wound against that vehicle. So when shooting at that vehicle, combined with the +1 to wound from the litany, you now have +2 to wound against that vehicle. And finally, you activate the stratagem Seismic Devastation from the Vigilist Defiant book for 1 command point, and your Devastators do mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6+ when you attack a building or vehicle. And here's the thing, it doesn't say unmodified wound rolls of 6, which means with the 2+ to wound, you'll be doing mortal wounds on rolls of 4+. So altogether, with a unit of 6 Centurions, you have 36 heavy bolter shots and 72 bolter shots, since the Centurions always rapid fire due to the bolter discipline rule. You get 3 hits for every unmodified hit roll of 6, you re-roll your hit rolls, you re-roll wound rolls of 1, minus 2 AP and 2 damage on the heavy bolters, plus 2 to wound with the hurricane bolters and the heavy bolters, and you do mortal wounds on rolls of 4+ because of the plus 2 to wound. This essentially means you will destroy at the very minimum 1 knight a turn, and that's only with the Centurions. You could honestly even probably divide up shots and have 4 Centurions target the 1 knight and 2 target something else, and you'll still probably kill the knight outright and then probably kill another vehicle as well, as long as it doesn't have as many wounds as a knight does. So for all of you out there that were scared of Iron Hands, I think this army has a pretty good answer for them. And also, this is only with 420 points of your army shooting. You will still have a lot more shooting on top of this. Another option for this combo as well could be replacing the captain with Tor Garadon, since he can give them rerolls of 1 to hit and he can make their ballistic skill a 2+. And now for the durability combos of the Centurions. So this combo is kind of specific. It requires you to go first. To be honest, it's not the most practical combo like the damage combo is, but if the stars align, it's actually a pretty damn good combo that can make your Centurions pretty resilient. So for the combo to work, you need to start your Centurions fully within a terrain piece that gives them cover, and preferably within 3 inches of an objective. You don't necessarily need the objective part, but it does help make the combo better. So being fully within a terrain piece that gives you cover automatically gives the Centurions +1 to their save. So that's a start. Then at the beginning of your turn, you activate a new stratagem called Bolster Defenses, which is 1 command point. This stratagem makes it so that the infantry unit you activated on gains an additional +1 to their save as long as they are fully within a terrain piece. And this bonus lasts for the entire game as long as that unit doesn't move. So if the unit you activated on, so in this case the Centurions, sit in cover and get this stratagem on them, they'll get +2 to their saving throws. And again, this lasts the entire game as long as they don't move. Also, this stratagem can only be used once per game. So as soon as you move these guys, there's no way you're going to be able to do this combo again. Then at the end of your turn, if your unit is within 3 inches of an objective marker, you can activate another new stratagem called the Shield Unwavering for 2 command points. This stratagem makes it so that the unit you activated on gains +1 to their attack characteristic and another +1 to their saving throws. So now going into your opponent's first turn, your Centurions have +3 to their saving throws on top of their natural 2+ save. This means they negate up to -3 AP from enemy shooting. On top of that, during your opponent's turn, when the Centurions are targeted by an enemy shooting attack that will wound them on 2+ or 3+, you activate the Codex stratagem Transhuman Physiology for 2 command points. And now the Centurions can only be wounded on wound rolls of 4+, on top of negating -3 AP from enemy shooting weapons. So as you can see, this combo can make the Centurions pretty damn durable. Or to be honest, it really can make any infantry durable. But again, it's not the most practical combo in the world, since it requires you to go first, otherwise you lose out on the +2 to your saving throws from using Bolstering Defenses and the Shield Unwavering, since those stratagems have to be activated during your turn, not your opponent's turn. But if the stars do align, I definitely think this defensive combo is worth going for. Also, I wanted to address something because I have a feeling I'll see some comments about it if I don't. I believe the Relic and Warlord trait from the Siegebreaker cohort formation is being removed from the game, because they were replaced in this supplement. The Warlord trait is something completely different now. It no longer is an aura that gives cover to your army. It's now basically just a permanent transhuman physiology effect for your Warlord. And the Relic does pretty much the same as before, but now it's reroll wound rolls of 1 for any Imperial Fist units and not just Siegebreaker cohort units. So I assume in the FAQ that will be released sometime after this supplement I assume those will be removed. Also, there is possibly a chance that they change the Seismic Devastation stratagem as well to only work on unmodified wound rolls of 6, since doing mortal wounds on 4+ might be a bit too strong. So before you go out and buy some Centurions to do the Wombo combo I talked about, I'd wait for the FAQ to be sure. Even with that said though, I do think the Centurions would still be decent even if it was only on unmodified wound rolls of 6+, but they might not be the most optimal choice at that point. And now before I move on to talking about the Warlord traits this new supplement has to offer, here is one more stratagem that I think is pretty cool. For 2 command points, there is a stratagem called Close Range Bolter Fire. This can be activated on any Imperial Fist unit. This stratagem makes it so that that unit's bolt weapons are treated as pistols for that shooting phase. This could be good to use if you get one of your units that have a lot of bolt weapons tied up in close combat, since pistols can be shot into enemies that are in combat with you. And since you can shoot multiple pistols at once, if you have a unit of intercessors in close combat, you can use this on them to get 20 shots into the enemy, 10 from their bolt rifles, which are now treated as pistols, and 10 from their actual bolt pistols. Also, this stratagem would work really well on Centurions as well. 36 heavy bolter shots and 36 bolt gun shots while they're in close combat. Then of course in the following fight phase, you punch to death whatever is left, if there is anything left. So now with that out of the way, let's talk about the Warlord traits. There is a cool combo where you can make a super beefy boy. You take a generic captain with a storm shield, or a Terminator captain with a storm shield, and you give him the trait called Indomitable. This is the replacement Warlord trait for the Siegebreaker cohort version. This trait makes it so that your Warlord can only be wounded on wound rolls of 4+. Then you use a stratagem from this book that's called Sentinel of Terra, which is 1 command point, and it allows you to give an unnamed character a second Warlord trait. And now you give him a trait called Stubborn Heroism. And this trait makes it so that any damage your Warlord has taken is halved rounding up. This can give you a pretty beefy boy that will be hard to take down without drowning him in dice. Throw in a Thunderhammer or a relic weapon of some kind, and you have yourself a pretty decent beatstick. The other Warlord trait I like is called Hand of Dorn. And this Warlord trait gives you D3 extra command points before the game begins. I actually personally think this would be the best trait to take if you're going for a Centurion list, since those combos can cost a lot of command points. This is also a great trait to throw on a second character, or even to take as your second Warlord trait for your actual Warlord, which both can be done by using stratagems. Because worst case scenario, you roll a 1 and you just get your command point back, but you could roll a 2 or a 3 and get yourself some extra command points to play the game with. So now let's discuss the 2 relics that I like from this book, and then I'll go over the spells I like from the Geokinesis discipline. So for the first relic, it's called the Eye of Hypnoth. This relic turns the bearer into a lieutenant basically. It gives him a 6-inch aura to reroll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Imperial Fists. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It could be nice on a captain to make him a pseudo Gilliman when it comes to rerolls if you upgrade him to be a chapter master. And the second relic is called Bones of Osrak. And this relic allows a keyword librarian to reroll failed psychic tests when casting spells from the new Geokinesis discipline. Again, pretty self-explanatory. It makes your librarian more consistent when casting those spells. And now to finish up the video, let's go over some of the spells I like from the new discipline. Spells from this discipline can be given to the keyword librarian models that are in the Imperial Fist detachments, instead of spells from either of the 2 Codex disciplines. The first spell I like is Tectonic Purge. This spell is Warp Charge 6, and it gives the Psyker a 12-inch aura that minuses 2 from enemy charges. This could be good if you want your librarian to be up front, but still behind a screen, so that aura can make charges for the enemy harder. This would require good spacing on your part though. Or he can be used as a pseudo Phobos captain to deny deep strike charges from behind, although the Phobos captain does this job much better. The second spell I like is called Rack and Ruin. This spell is Warp Charge 6, and you select a building unit or an enemy unit that is fully on a terrain piece that is within 18 inches of the Psyker, and then you roll 9d6 and you add 1 to the result if it's a building. For each roll of 5+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. This can be great at helping deal with durable units that are hiding in terrain that you might have a hard time killing with normal shooting. Although to be honest, you're Imperial Fists. You ignore cover. You shouldn't really have a hard time killing anything that's hiding in terrain. But I guess this spell is more of like a narrative thing, and it is still pretty cool. It allows you to just get some more damage out on units that are hiding in terrain. To be honest, in pure Imperial Fist lists, you're probably not going to want to take this spell. But I could see if you were doing some sort of soup where you're combining a whole bunch of stuff and you don't get access to your chapter tactic, which by the way is a horrible idea, don't do that. But let's just say you did do that, well then this spell could help you deal with stuff that's hiding in terrain. The third spell I like is called Fortify, and it's Warp Charge 4, so it's incredibly easy to get off. This spell heals an infantry or biker model for D3 wounds. This is alright. In a way, it's more reliable than the Apothecary's heals, but an Apothecary can also bring a model back from the dead, so I think the Apothecary is actually still more useful. However, this spell could be useful to heal up a unit like Centurions pretty consistently. And that's it for the psychic spells. And before I close out this video, I want to give a few more thoughts about the army to help you guys and gals out when it comes to building your own Imperial Fist armies. Personally, I feel like this army should be played in a brigade detachment. There are great units that synergize with the chapter tactic and the chapter doctrine that fit into all of the roles for an army, because there are units that can take bolt weapons in every role. For some examples, you have intercessors for your troops, Invictor war suits or contemptors for elites. You have bikes or attack bikes for fast attack, and you have Centurion Devastators or Devastators for your heavy heavy support. So really, there is no tax units if you make a brigade. Everything is useful in one way or another, so I don't really see any downsides to it. And there are definitely more unit options than what I just mentioned. I just wanted to give some examples. I also think the reason that you should make a brigade for your army is because of the stratagems in this supplement, and really the stratagems in the Space Marine Codex as well. They're so incredibly good. So you're going to want to farm up a bunch of command points to be able to use these combos. And that's going to be it for this video. Overall, I really like this supplement, and to be honest, I will probably be playing my current Space Marines army as Imperial Fists for the time being, since I actually really like these rules. Originally, I decided on using Crimson Fists, but personally, I like the Imperial Fist rules and combos a lot better than the Crimson Fist rules, which is why I didn't really mention any of them in this video. So I decided instead of going straight Crimson Fists, and I'm actually going to do my usual thing that I do with other armies, and I'm going to go with a custom paint scheme and just use whatever rules I currently enjoy at that time. And so for the time being, it will probably be Imperial Fists, since I think their rules fit the type of army that I would love playing. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon if you'd like to see more content like this and be notified when I upload new videos in the future. And also, like I said earlier, my Salamanders video will be out later this week, and part 3 of my Phoenix Rising series, where I will discuss the new Inari stuff, should be out sometime next week as well. Also, like usual, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I love reading all your comments, and I'd love to know what you guys and gals think about these new rules. Anyways, thanks to all my patrons for being awesome and helping support the channel so I can make videos like this, and also thanks to all of you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy wargaming.